my loves, and welcome back to another episode of Native Growth, the podcast that peels back the layers of our human experience to reveal our innate truths. I'm Lauren Jean Brabson, and I'm so glad you're here with me today. Today's episode is all about balance. Oh, I just realized that this is also episode 10, and in numerology, 10 essentially gets reduced down to the number 1, which is the number for new beginning. So it's actually quite perfect that I decided, I guess, that I was going to talk about balance today, how to find balance in our day-to-day lives, but also, kind of in the grand scheme of things in a bigger picture sort of sense. I really wanted to talk about this today, mostly because I felt called to. It's something that has been coming up in a lot of conversation lately, and that I've also seen kind of, other smaller conversations pop up around this topic on social media lately. And the real truth about finding balance is that it is a moving target. And it's also a morphing, changing target. Finding balance never looks the same. The process of finding balance never looks the same from one day, 1 month, one season of your life from another. And the particular balance that you find, when you do find it, it will serve you for a period of time, however long that is, but it won't be necessarily what serves you down the road sooner or later. As human beings, we are naturally very changing. Oh, there's a hawk outside, look at that. We're naturally changing all the time, right? And we might not feel like we change a whole lot from day to day, but we really do. I think we change a lot more than we give ourselves credit for, especially when we are in seasons of growth, seasons of manifestation, seasons of, maybe some big changes, moving in and out of some important relationships, moving in and out of different careers or jobs. Maybe we're moving in and out of seasons where we're focusing more on our spiritual health, our mental health, our physical health, right? Like, as we decide that we need to change the focus of our lives, whether we're focusing on one change, one small change, one big change, or many changes all, kind of, I don't want to say exactly at the same time, but, if we're trying to make lots of changes in a small period of time, then finding our balance is going to look very different from one day to the next, from 1 week to the next, from 1 month to the next, So I think first and foremost, this is your kind of friendly reminder that when we say, oh, I need to find balance, air quotes, we do want to make sure that we're living in a balanced way, that we're feeling balanced, and also that we are balancing ourselves holistically, right? So that we're finding balance in our physical selves, we're finding balance in our mental, emotional selves, our spiritual selves, but also that we are balancing each of those as well as a whole to make our complete holistic balance. But again, that's going to change, and that's okay. The habits that you had a year ago are probably not the same habits that you have now, at least some of them. Some of them, you find these things that work really well for you and you hang on to them for a while, and that's awesome. But by no means does that mean that if you decide that you need to take a break from something or to let go of something, that therefore your whole world is going to fall out of balance. I think that that's something that we tend to get really kind of nervous about sometimes. We get really worried sometimes when we do feel like we have, kind of quote unquote, finally found our balance, and then we're like, okay, these are the things that work for me. These are the things that I need to keep doing, for myself, for, my family. I think that's a big one. I think a lot of people, because we spend so much time thinking about how we're going to take care of everyone else, and we often put ourselves on the back burner. We think, okay, I have found this. I don't think it's so much a balance, but I think we feel like we have found a rhythm, right? There's a rhythm of like what we do on a day to day or a week to week, where we're like, okay, I get up in the morning, I do this, I go to work, I come home, I do that, then I do X, Y, and Z, then I watch TV and go to bed, and we get so in these rhythms and in these routines that we're like, okay, well, if it's working for everybody else and everyone else seems like they have all of their needs met, and I'm able to provide, above and beyond that, where I'm able to give them a little something extra that adds joy to their life. Maybe it's like, okay, I have met all the basic needs for my kids and my family, but we also have a little bit extra. Sometimes we're able to go out and do fun things. We're able to go on vacations, right? All that sort of thing. And so we look at that and we tend to use that as our indicator that we must be finding balance and that things must be going well and we must be doing a good job. And I think that we can certainly look at the way that we contribute to other people's lives, as a way to say, okay, do I feel like my kids are growing up in a way where they are, intelligent and smart and successful and they're good people, and they have good relationships, good support systems around them? Sure, like that means that we're doing a good job as a parent, right? Or, we can certainly look at all kinds of other things that we use to gauge our success within each of our life roles on, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that we have found balance. That doesn't necessarily mean that just because I might be a good wife, a good business owner, a good podcaster, a good dog mom, whatever it is, a good cook, home cook, it doesn't necessarily mean that I have found balance. Just because I can do lots of things well, just because I can be successful playing multiple different roles in my life, does not mean that I have found balance, does not mean that I feel like I am holistically, internally feeling successful about myself, because where do I fit into my life, right? And something I was talking about with my husband the other day was that we often really kind of look at life in a very compacted, like, what's the word I'm looking for? We look at it almost as if it were a reduction, right? Like when you reduce a sauce, right? You let it simmer and all of like the moisture comes out of it, and then it's this very reduced, very concentrated version of what it once was. I feel like that's how we often look at life, right? We think, okay, well, if my basic physiological needs are being met, therefore I feel safe, right? Like if I have food, if I have water, if I have clothing, I have shelter, right? Those basic physiological needs, if those are met, therefore I feel safe. Well, sure, you can feel safe in that physiological way. That does not necessarily mean that you feel safe in your partnership, in your communities, at your job, with your money, in your body, right? Like there are all of these other aspects of life, these other aspects of being that we don't necessarily pay enough attention to, especially when we're really truly in a place where we're like, okay, like I am imbalanced. I just am. Like however it is that you decide that you feel imbalanced and called to bring more balance to your life, you cannot do that by looking at life in this very reduced, concentrated way of like, okay, if I'm safe, therefore I'm safe across the board in all aspects of life, in all areas of being. Like, that's just not true. It really takes more of a deeper looking inward at those different aspects of life and looking at where you feel like you're truly at in terms of your balance or health in each area of life, in order to really say, okay, well, I'm great in this area. Maybe you're feeling really great about your physical health and the balance you have with the amount of time and energy you're giving to your physical body. But in the pursuit, perhaps you feel like, your financial health is not where you want it to be. You're not finding really good balance with your finances, with your money coming, in and out as it does. The circulation of it, I guess I could say, right? So we, first of all, I think it's really important that we recognize that balance is not only a moving target, but that it is also not based on I guess a sort of like product driven idea. It's a process. Balance is, you're not going to find balance in one thing or two things or one habit or two habits, right? Like, you're going to find it in your processes, in your deeper underlying processes, which are largely a reflection of your beliefs, right? So again, we need to spend more time, I think, finding out what those beliefs are in order to get a really good grasp on where we're currently at and where we want to be in each of those aspects of life. And remember how in the last, probably the last few episodes now, how we've talked about like love is being there, and a couple episodes ago we talked about like gratitude is being there. And we even kind of talked, Heather and I talked in the last episode a little bit about how like mindfulness and kind of just living in the moment is so important in order to gain that really good understanding of yourself, so that you can, how did she say it? I think she said like to clean up your own garbage, you know. So it goes back to the idea like true love is being there, gratitude is being there, but most importantly, self-care is being there, balance is being there. If you're going to find balance in the process of taking yourself from where you are to where you want to be, in one area, in multiple areas, in mind, body, and spirit, then we have to practice being there. We have to practice being present with ourselves in each of those areas of life, and kind of go, okay, well, I've been, like, I work with a lot of people who their physical health is kind of one of their primary concerns, right? Their physical health and then their spiritual health are two really big ones for them usually. And so a lot of people will say, okay, like, I know that my physical health is important to me, but I don't feel like I have enough time or energy usually to do a whole lot of meal prep, to do some really good grocery shopping, right? And they just get so used to falling into these habits of like, well, when I do go grocery shopping, I know that what I need to do is make sure that I have lots of snacks. And so they're thinking chips and pretzels and, like, what are those things? Fruit snacks, right? They're thinking all these like quick little finger foods, right? And when I go to the grocery store, I think something very similar. I think, okay, my physical health is important to me and I want to make sure that I find balance in my physical health, right? So I know that I like to graze throughout the day. I perform a lot better when I don't eat a lot of really big heavy meals. I feel like that really slows me down. So I'm gonna need snacks, right? But I think I guess I should back up and say, like, when I started to make this huge transformation in my physical self, um, about 18 years ago, I I thought, well, if I'm thinking finger foods, then who's to say that a banana isn't a finger food? That an apple isn't a finger food, that oranges aren't finger foods, that that um, celery and peanut butter is not a finger food, right? So now I'm kind of just taking the process, right? I'm following the same process, the same ideology of like, okay, I'm gonna want snacks, but if I want to find balance, right, then we go, okay, this is important to me, but how can I bring it into balance, right? So it requires us to step into a new ideology. It also requires us to really have an element of resolve. If something is truly important to you, you will be willing to shift your perspective about it. If something is truly important to you, you will be willing to be there with it. You will be willing to give it your time and energy and your intention. And I know a lot of people will, look at this process, this ideology in relationship to the idea of finding balance and say, oh, well, what we need to do is just we need to have more discipline, right? Discipline is another really big thing that comes up a lot when it comes to the idea of finding balance. But I think, again, that's because a lot of times we're going back to this idea of like, well, I have to make sure that I am meditating every day, that I am journaling every day, that I'm eating healthy every day, that I'm manifesting every day, right? We think we have to like check all these boxes on a laundry list of things to do every day or every week or every month or whatever in order to find balance. Um, and that requires discipline to do all of that with that kind of frequency. It's almost robotic. And again, it doesn't give credit to the fact that you are not the same person today that you were yesterday or a month ago or 6 months ago or 5 years ago, right? So if you were to go along with that idea and to continue to try to do all of those things that worked for you 5 years ago, I'm sure that in large part you just wouldn't find them as helpful now. And that's inherent. That's supposed to happen. That's part of the native growth process, right? It's native in our being that we grow up and grow out. That we grow out of what brought us balance before, what brought us happiness and fulfillment before, what made us feel safe before, right? We grow. It's in our nature to grow and elevate, right? And we do things like we practice loving ourselves more, practice being there more for ourselves and for our loved ones, right? We practice compassion, right? That idea that we can relieve our own suffering and that we can be there for others to relieve their suffering as well, that we elevate our standards in the process, right? That we no longer tolerate the same things we once did, right? And so all the things that brought us balance and joy before, we grow out of those things. Like we use them to build a sort of foundation, right? But the idea is not that we just keep working on a foundation all the time and never build anything on top of it. Right? We grow and our home grows. The home within us grows as we grow. And that's so important that we allow that to happen, encourage that to happen by allowing ourselves not to chase balance, but that we allow ourselves to redefine balance as it moves with us, as it grows with us, right? So, like, I think very much about how a year ago, this has been something that my husband and I have talked about a couple of times recently as well. In fact, just on Sunday morning, we were having breakfast, and he was like, a year ago on a Sunday morning, what were you doing? And I was like, well, if I if I was scheduled to to work a shift. I had, there was a metaphysical store, you know, kind of in the area that I used to go to a couple of times a week to make myself available to see energy healing clients. Um, you know, and there was a little bit of coaching that I did mix in with that as well. But it was just an easy way for like me to be at a place where people didn't necessarily know that I was available in the area to offer energy healing, and they, you know, would go to the metaphysical store and then they could find me there. So on some Sundays I was doing that all day, like 11 to 7 or 11 to 8 or whatever it was, you know. And then if I had a day off, I was definitely focusing on what I could do for myself and for my dog, and to, you know, kind of keep the wheels on the bus in our small little household for the day. Like, what cleaning did I have to get done? How could I maybe let myself enjoy having a slow morning, just like slowly enjoying my tea and my breakfast and watching a little TV in the morning before I felt like I had to kind of get up and get moving and do things. And truthfully, like, I between my full-time job and then seeing all of my clients and working those extra shifts at the metaphysical store, truly I was spreading myself too thin. But at the time, you know, I was building a portion of my business. I was building a portion of myself. I also, you know, was journaling every day, like specifically for the purpose of manifestation. You know, there were other things that I would do daily and weekly, but you know, the point is that all of those things that I did a year ago that served me, right? Like, I was able to use all of those things as tools to help me build my business in the way that it looked at the time, to help me make enough money at the time, since I was living alone and taking care of a dog who has 1,000,001 allergies. I love him to death, but when you have a dog with special allergy physiological needs, it's gonna cost more. His food costs me a lot more because he can only eat raw salmon, so that's that. You know, so all of those things served me in those needs back then. But once I you know, once my manifestations really started unfolding themselves and integrating into my reality, I found that I no longer needed to spread myself so thin. I no longer needed to work as much or as hard. You know, like, I no longer needed to manifest what was already, you know, becoming a part of my reality, right? So not only have my processes changed around finding balance, in the process I also found that I, you know, became a kind of a different person in a way, right? Which again is part of our native growth, that our needs are no longer the same because we are no longer the same. Like, we are, but we aren't. And I think that when we're really doing ourselves justice in our native growth process, in the pursuit of filling our lives with things that bring us the feelings of more balance, more peace, more joy, more love, more fulfillment, that as all of those things start to come to us more and more, that we continue to be a little bit different of a person on the outside, but what's really happening is the truth of our soul is really being revealed, right? Like, the more that we start to see our lives unfold in front of us, the more that I think what we really start to see is like, this was my truth all along. That really at the heart of who I am balance. I am consciousness. I am peace. I am love. I am prosperous. I am abundant. I am inherently worthy just because of who I am. And we start to see that our ability to find balance and to adapt and change and grow over time does not come from any false idea of where our power comes from and what it means for us to truly be empowered, right? We find that our true power really comes from the fact that, sorry, it's been really kind of dry. A little drink of my Topo Chico. It's one of my favorite things, and they're totally not sponsoring the show, but I love Topo Chico. Okay, I digress. So what we find is that our true power, and therefore our true joy and our true balance and our true fulfillment, really comes from allowing ourselves to just be all of those things that we were designed to be in the first place. Like, in remembering in a very soulful way, remembering that how do I want to say it? That there's a little piece of creator that lives inside all of us, right? Like, not just in the fact that you're born and you're here and you're alive and you're growing and you're doing a fantastic job at all the things that you're doing, and that you are so loving and so loved and so cherished and so deeply and divinely held, but that there's that little piece of, you know, what like my people who will refer to creator as God, they will refer to this as the Holy Spirit, right? That you have that little piece of the Holy Spirit, that little piece of divinity that stayed with you in the birthing process. That you are not only your soul, but you are also that little piece of divinity, that little piece of creation, right? And what is that? It is life. You are life, right? So think about the tree. Like, look outside real quick. I keep looking outside, like, because spring is kind of sort of starting to do a thing here in Wisconsin a little bit, but the grass is at least green, and I'm really thankful for that. Like, just to see something green outside and some blue sky, not all cloudy and dreary and cold. You know, it's such a welcoming sight to my eyes. But think about grass, think about trees, right? Like God didn't just make one tree and then go, yep, that's enough. He was like, no, I need to make, I don't even know, trillions, quadrillions. You can't even count the number of trees on the earth, and you can't even count the number of leaves on one tree, right? Because God isn't stingy. God isn't like, okay, well, you get one leaf and that's all you need. No, divinity is life. Divinity is naturally prosperous and abundant and perfect. And so Creator wants to reveal itself as each and every tree. And so wants to reveal the fact that it is perfect in all of its imperfection, that it can utilize all the resources it has around it to continue growing without any criticism or comparison between each tree or between each leaf, right? They don't sit there and talk back and forth to each other and go like, well, you know, how did you get your leaves to be so green? Like, you must have found a way better balance in this lifetime than I did. Like, how are you standing up so straight and I'm freaking crooked? Like, that's not how they do that. That's not how that works. That's not how they are. And I don't think that that's how we are inherently either. So much of what we do and what we think we have to do is so learned. So learned. And when we allow ourselves to, again, go back to that idea of, okay, well, now I'm going to look at my physical self. I'm going to look at my money. I'm going to look at my job or career, my livelihood. I'm going to look at my closest relationships in my community, and I'm going to look at my spirit, my spiritual health, right? We're going to look at all of these things individually, and we're going to feel into where we are. We're just going to be super honest with ourselves about where we are right now and where we want to be, how it is that we want to find that balance. We want to find that prosperity. We want to find that place where we don't need to take up more space, but we just want to have more breathing room. We just want to have more space available to us, right? And don't say that you want that space just in case something happens. Don't even put that energy out in the universe, please. Just be like, you know what? I'm allowed to have more space. I'm allowed to have more breathing room just because it's nice to have, right? It's always great to have plans for things, but as soon as you start being like, well, I might need it for this, well, then guess what? You just communicated to the universe that you're going to need it for that thing. So don't do that. But what you can do is get down, like I said, to those kind of core beliefs that you currently have and compare them to the beliefs that you want to have, and then compare the processes that you have with the processes you want to have, and the balance you currently have with the balance you want to have, the breathing room you have with the breathing room you want to have, in each of those areas of your life, and really uncover those innate truths about the way that Creator desires to reveal itself as you, exactly as you are, with whatever you have right now, because you are doing the best you can with what you have at the time, always, right? And really lean into that, trusting yourself and trusting that you have the tools, and trusting that if you feel like you don't have all the tools right now, that just by giving that aspect of your life, that idea, that belief, more of your time and energy, that the right tools will naturally come to you. Because you know the old saying, God helps those who help themselves, right? So you just keep doing the best you can with what you have. If you need more will come to you. If you need help will come to you, right? You just keep doing your thing. You just keep breathing love and life into each area of your life and into your holistic balance, and balance will always be there available for you. It might not feel like it some days. I'm not going to say that this is any kind of like a perfect, once you get the whole process down, then you always feel fantastic and you always feel completely in balance every single day. But I think a lot of that actually, at least for me now, I will very honestly say that it is, for me, I find the biggest challenge is that I am naturally in my ego self, not so much in my soul self, in my external, in my meat suit self, I guess. I'm naturally an overachiever. I naturally always want to be serving as much as I can, to be loving and sharing as much as I can, to be doing as much as I can for myself and my loved ones and my community. And the reality is that's like my meat suit has limitations. Sometimes I feel like garbage, and then I'm like, oh, like I really wanted to do this thing today. I really wanted to go to the gym today. I really wanted to, I don't know, do some content creation today or whatever it is. But then I feel like garbage, and then I get so frustrated. I feel like garbage. And that goes back to that whole thing we talked about in episode 1 about embracing your seasons, right? Like sometimes you just gotta be like, you know what? Like if my body needs rest, chances are my soul needs rest too. And that's the way that I'm gonna find balance, is just by going with the flow in whatever it is that you know that you need, in whatever it is that you know that your heart needs, that your body needs, that your soul needs, right? Just trying not to argue with the truths that you uncover. Wow, me with the words today. Try not to argue with the truths that you uncover as you go about your growing journey. Just, as my hairdresser likes to say, receive and allow. Receive and allow. I love him so much. He's an awesome human being. And I'm not going to tell you his name because I'm not sharing him with you. I'm sorry. It is one thing I'm keeping myself. But anyway, to just allow yourself to do what you need to do so that you can keep doing what you want to do. And to keep kind of allowing different indicators, different pieces of information to come in to your field or your reality that will tell you where and how you need to find balance in that particular time and season. Sometimes it is your body saying, hey, time out. Like, you know, we were able to find lots of awesome balance yesterday by overachieving, and today we're not doing that. You know, maybe once upon a time you were able to find you know, really good balance with your finances by just going to work and then paying your bills, and maybe it was kind of paycheck to paycheck, but you were just like making it all kind of happen. And maybe now that's no longer the case, and you need to kind of consolidate some things and look at some things and focus on you know, just knocking out debt for a little while and building up your savings account and kind of going Dave Ramsey, right? Like, whatever it is, maybe it's that you know, going back to the conversation we had a couple of episodes ago, maybe it's that you find yourself in such a need for control that then when things don't happen the way you thought they were going to happen, you find yourself unable to receive the lessons and the blessings that come from things working out differently than you expected they would, right? That goes along with our episode about expectations, but also the one that came after that. I'm drawing the blank on what I called it, even though I had a blog post called the same thing. Heavens to Betsy. Oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. That's what I called it. Yeah. So it obviously ties into both of those things, that maybe sometimes we need to find more balance, maybe in all aspects of life, maybe just in some. I would argue that, you know, between the ego and the spirit, that tends to be the two aspects of life that kind of butt heads a lot, where it's like, yeah, I want to be in flow, I want to receive and allow, but that means that I have to trust. That means I have to trust someone and something other than me, myself, and my own processes, right? And maybe that's where you're really struggling to find your balance right now. In fact, it just dawned on me this morning. I do meditating every day is one of the things that helps me find balance, and it has for years. That's a part of my balancing process. And I will say though that the way that I meditate and the focus I give in my meditations do differ from one season to the next. But I do, in general, make meditation a part of my daily practice. But anyway, so I would say that this morning in my meditation, it occurred to me that Part of this season that I've been in for the last few weeks, while things have been just flourishing and phenomenal, and I'm so grateful, and I've been spending more time even in my meditation, and more time, putting more energy and intention back on myself, which is all part of the lifestyle that I've manifested. So it's extra awesome that way, like, to affirm that power within me, and that belief that this is part of the way that creator desires to express itself as me, is through this lifestyle, by setting this example. Right at the same time, I had lived for so long so independently, so I got so used to not so much having like the mindset or the heart posture that, hey, I better be on top of everything all the time, or something bad is going to happen. It wasn't so much that in my heart I had to be in control of everything all the time, but it was more in my practice. It was in action, in like all the actions all the time throughout the day, that I did have to be responsible. I had to make sure that I was taken care of, that my dog was taken care of, that we had food in our bellies and a roof over our heads and clothes, and that we had everything that we needed, and if I was going to be gone for any length of time, that he would be taken care of without me, and all of that. So coming into this new phase of life, I have found myself for the last few weeks, while everything has been so great, that I struggle almost. I've struggled with this whole, I don't know, for the first couple of weeks, it almost felt like I had this thing in the back of my mind that was like almost waiting to see if another shoe was gonna drop. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but in 2020, the guy that I was dating, and he was a good friend of mine for a while, but he got killed in a motorcycle crash. And that, it was 2020, so I had no job. I had to give up our apartment. It totally flipped my whole world upside down. And now it's like, wow, like now I'm integrating with things being, totally flipped the other way around. And that, of course, is because of all of the work that I did on myself, to get myself back to a place where I would be ready to receive it and allow it and love it and appreciate it, and use it as a tool for greater love and expansion in my life. But yeah, it's so I kind of had this like, oh, maybe I'm just not completely consciously waiting to see if another shoe is gonna drop. But then it dawned on me this morning in my meditation, like, no, actually, as you manifested this lifestyle as a both a means and a byproduct of that, what happened is you offloaded a lot of that responsibility, a lot of that control over how your needs are going to be met, over how Leo's needs are going to be met, and over how you're going to have a complete and fulfilling life, right? Like, I had already given all of that to God anyway, but that's in heart space, which is way different than giving it away in action. I just have to say. So finding this new balance for me, especially, over these last few weeks, has been like, oh, okay, so that means now that so here's a good example. I was just talking about how I meditate every day. So the last couple of weeks now, I've come back to this place where the focus of my my meditations is less on manifestations farther in the future, and it's more on mindfulness. It's just more on all the things that I'm grateful for today, in the moment, this week. And it's more on it's more like something that I do is I practice grounding my energy, and I get my earth energy running through my body, and then I connect to my cosmic energy through my crown chakra, and I get my cosmic energy running as well, and I allow the two energies to mix into my body, and to fill up my body, and to keep my energy very clear, which helps me to keep my thoughts clear and focused, which helps my body to be more healed and vital and energetic. And it, on the whole, it helps me to be more in a space where I am living as the highest version of myself and trusting myself and trusting my intuition and really trusting creator, and therefore really trusting my path and everything in my path, and allowing myself to release a lot of that control, knowing that a lot of it I didn't have anyway. Right? And that's actually a very comforting thought. I know a lot of people feel very nervous when they realize how much control they don't have, but for me that's very comforting. I know that I'm very divinely held, as we all are, and the more you trust that, the more balance you're gonna find in your life overall. I guarantee it. But also that I don't need it. Like I don't I don't need to have it. Like everything is taken care of every day, right? So I get my energy running, I keep it clear, and I just allow myself to flow in the highest timeline, whatever that looks like that particular day. And I trust that as I need any piece of intuitive information, whether it's about something going on right now or in the future or whatever, that I will have that information when I need it, right? Creator will release that envelope to me, whenever I need it, and not any sooner. There's a lot of other benefits of, doing this sort of meditation where you're running your earth and cosmic energies, but that's for me kind of been the focus, for the reason that I recognize that my season is changing and growing and evolving. It's elevating, it's doing what it's supposed to do in its native growth, and therefore I'm becoming that elevated version of myself and my native growth to match that, right? These two things are happening alongside each other simultaneously, and that's an awesome, beautiful thing. It just means that I, probably like you, wherever you are, need to recognize the fact that the way I found balance even just a few weeks ago is not the same way that I find balance now. And that's okay. It's okay to know when we need to change. It's okay to reach out to our sources around us and to ask for help or supporting information. It's okay to look things up on YouTube. It's okay to not know. It's okay to not know. Yeah, maybe you need to hear that today, but in the pursuit of finding your balance, you might need to learn things that you don't yet know. And you might just need to stumble around in the dark for a little bit before you do know them, and that's okay. It's okay to go where you've never gone before. It's okay to cut things out of your life that no longer bring you balance and fulfillment like they once did. It's okay to explore uncharted territory, both internally within yourself and externally in your reality. It's okay to not know. We tend to think that change is scary, whether change is about, finding your balance or not. We tend to think that change is so scary. But change is only as scary as you make it, But especially in the pursuit of changing yourself, changing your life, and therefore needing to change your balance. Change is such a positive thing. Change is so welcome when you just open your heart a little bit and you say, okay, I still want to make sure that I'm well taken care of in every aspect of my life, whether I'm doing that independently as a single person or cooperatively, with a partner or maybe a best friend who contributes, or a roommate that contributes, or a community that supports you and lifts you up in that, whatever that looks like for you. It's okay to welcome that change in the pursuit of improving the quality of your being and the quality of your life, and then finding your new balance. I almost was going to say your new normal, but truthfully, I kind of hate that term. I think I really only hate it though because it came out of the whole season of like 2020 and COVID, and that whole thing just really kind of irritates me in general. That whole season, that whole period, but I digress. Um, yeah. So it's so good to let in change. It's so good to let in improvement, to allow yourself to grow natively as you would, and to allow your balance to grow and move and shift also. Um, yeah, yeah. So again, balance is not like I'm gonna fire this arrow or throw this dart and hit the target and there it's gonna be, and it's gonna be like that forever. Like it's not a product driven thing. It's not something you find one time and then you keep it forever. It's a very process driven thing that requires kind of your constant engagement. Sorry, people. It requires kind of your constant engagement, your constant intention, right? It's like happiness, right? That whole idea of the pursuit of happiness. We don't just have it just because. Like it's it's um it's something that we gain with with energy and intention. I don't know if I like the word pursuit because that kind of implies like chasing it a little bit. I don't think that that's it at all, because truthfully on the soul level we are innately joy. We are innately balanced. Right? But in your day-to-day life, obviously, we as humans, us, you know, meat suits within these souls that we are, we do have to put forth some effort in order to find joy and balance, and it is a process and it is a moving target, and it's not going to be perfect from one day to the next. It's going to be a little bit of an exploratory thing, but it is a great thing. It is a wonderful thing to go through the process of exploring each of these areas of your life and each of these aspects of your being in order to find that place where truly, I think when people say that they would find balance, I think what we're really looking for is that place where we feel like we're at home, or we're at home with ourselves. Right? So allow that process to unfold, invite it to unfold. Go do the things that that bring you gratitude, right? If you haven't already, go back and listen to episode 8 called Thank You, which is all about the process of gratitude and how it empowers our lives, and really is like a rocket ship for the growth of our joy in our everyday life. And when you're ready and you're putting all these pieces together of like your gratitude and your balance and your growth, and you're like ready to focus on some like amazing parts of what you believe is coming for you in the future, what you believe is already yours just to receive and allow, I highly recommend that you listen to the last episode, which is episode 9, called Quantum Leap Day, that my great friend Heather, who's also a psychic medium, she recorded with me. She was a guest last week, Thursday, which was Leap Day. So we talked all about quantum leaping, and it was such a great time. So yeah, definitely give those a listen. If what I said earlier on today, about being there and having the compassion, both the desire and the ability to relieve suffering and to add joy to your life and the lives of your loved ones. That goes back to episode 5, I think it was, which was all about love and true love. That's a great listen for you as well. And as always, if you have any questions or comments on any of the episodes, I'd love to hear them. Links to my Instagram and my email are always in the show notes. And if this episode, any of my episodes, any pieces of them have resonated with you in particular, I'd love to hear that as well. So I'm open to DMs and emails all the time. I always appreciate all of the feedback I get from you guys. It's all helpful. If there's anything in particular that you'd like to hear talked about on this show, I'd love to hear that too. So all kinds of feedback is always welcome. I always love connecting with you guys. This is why I do what I do, truly is for the connection with people. Human connection is one of the most important things to me in my entire life, and it always has. And I hope that if you love this episode and you feel called to donate, that you will donate. But definitely, if you would, like this episode, if you would share it, subscribe so that you get notified every time a new episode is up. But all of the ways that we connect and engage with each other helps us to raise the vibration and the consciousness of the universe, and that's what we're here for. So thank you so much for being here today with me. I love you all so very much. You're doing an awesome job, and I can't wait to see you again later this week. Bye.